Welcome back, Collectible Conversations. We're your hosts, Squeaks.
And Radar.
I'm probably pointing the wrong way.
No,
I
you're
never get this.
you're pointing the right way.
Oh, yeah, because yours is opposite.
That's
Nailed
right.
it.
Nice.
First try,
You knew it.
baby.
Yeah. Don't
Yeah,
don't be
easy.
so humble.
So how you doing, man?
Oh, putting a lot of money into the Mega Millions, or should I say Mega Billions?
Oh, is that the lottery thing?
Yeah, it's
Oh, I think I saw an article. And dude, every time I see that, I'm not gonna lie, it feels like a scam. Because I get it,
it
someone's eventually
is.
gonna win. But every time people buy it, it's like, oh, nobody won.
Yeah. No,
And then they go to the next one, right? Like,
it's
I don't
at
know.
it's above a billion for the like third time ever or something like that. So you got to buy at least one ticket. $2. Come on.
Eh, I'll just go buy another booster pack and pull a normal rare. Scam myself in my own way,
I,
on my terms, baby.
I wonder what the actual EV comparison of that would be, a $2 pack versus a $2 ticket of
Yeah, that's not even close. The pack you're gonna recoup like at least 30 some cents of value or something out of the bulk.
well, if you
The
do the
ticket,
percentages and all the averages and numbers and statistics.
yeah. Listen, I don't. Okay, if there's a data scientist out there in the comments that can break this down for us, but I'm gonna assume it's the booster pack, and I don't even think it's close. But we'll leave it there because this is not the Mega Millions podcast, and they are not paying us to advertise.
But if you won, you could collect a lot of conversations. So, wow, bringing out the Mountain Dew at 9 a.m. What a day!
Wow, spoiling when we're filming,
What a
man,
day, dude!
we're down bad. The production is just and the retention. I feel like we're gonna have one of these graphs every podcast.
Oh, no. We have great graphs thanks to our wonderful viewers who love listening to collectible conversations. Yeah, no, for real. I'm doing pretty good. Uh, I'm having a lot of fun still doing all my little shorts. I actually cracked out, which you'll probably see by now, but I cracked out a legendary collection Charizard PSA 9 because I'm actually going to send it to CGC and hope for a 9.5. So, yeah.
So, do you think the 9.5 value outpaces the 9.5 value in CGC outpaces the 9 value in PSA? Like, I don't know where those cards stand at all right now. I don't know where people stand on 9.5s with
Yeah.
CGC since there's been the whole like myth of the grading scale has changed and tens are more accessible now. I've been tracking the eBay like listings of how many tens pop up. It does feel like maybe more pristine tens have popped up. I haven't really felt that more perfect tens have.
Yeah.
But I assume that at least if pristine tens are popping up more, that 9.5s also would be popping up more. So I'm just wondering, like, what made you go through that thought process? Like, what made you want to do that?
A PSA 9 Legendary Collection Reverse Charizard is probably like $3,000. I have no idea what a 9.5 sells in Beckett or CGC, but to me, it's a better grade. A 9.5 is higher than a 9. And value-wise, I can't imagine ever getting anything lower than what a PSA 9 is. Again, the grading scale to me, across those three companies at least, they kind of match up. Like if it's that whole conversation is a tough one.
Not worth the time, sure. I guess I'm more interested in your strategy of it. So, like, the idea of, are you going to put subgrades, for example? What if you get that 9.5 and it doesn't have subgrades? Then people are going to assume, like, maybe I can cross it to a 10 over here or whatever, And I mean, there's people that have crossed PSA 9s back to PSA 10s or
Yeah.
BGS 9s to PSA 10s, whatever. And so I guess to me, it's more less like maybe the company changing scales or anything like that, and more just the idea of, I've never been one to break cards out of cases and shoot for a regrade. To me, the grade is what it is. I would like to believe, and I know it obviously is not true, but I would like to believe when you send a card to a company, it gets the grade that it's supposed to get the first time. And so to me, I've just never been on that like risky grading track of like, okay, I'm going to crack slabs. Whereas you obviously seem to do it every single day now. So to me, it's just fascinating. I guess I would love if you tracked it in terms of data of like how many times it pans out
Yeah.
versus how many times it doesn't, and to see if you actually made gains, which I know part of the gains are going to be really card dependent, right? On, if the right card hits it, it could offset 10 times it doesn't. But and to me, that's just it's a fascinating strategy, and I know it's a strategy a lot of people use. It's a strategy that's been very effective in sports cards for many, many years. Um, but it's just never been something I've really participated in. Which part of my business model is just churn and burn. So
Right.
like when I get a graded card back, I've already waited that long to get it back. I need to just list it and sell it, and if I take a hit, I take a hit. And versus re-putting in that ecosystem, the time I re-put it in, whatever margin difference I'm going to make. But you also tend to deal in a lot higher end cards than I do. Whereas, maybe my perspective would change if the card was $2,000 versus $200 or $100.
Right, which like the case with a lot of E series hollows. In nines, they're a couple $100. In tens, you'll hit that $1,000, $2,000 mark.
There goes and yeah, stuff
So
like
yeah,
that.
it's very card dependent. Like exactly. I mean, some of the stuff I'm doing is like just because like they're like an 8.5 or something weird that doesn't really matter. But that was definitely the first card that was like a big card, maybe outside of the Lugia. That yeah, it's definitely just like it's a big enough card, enough value there where it's worth taking that shot and trying to get a little bump. So definitely won't be doing that with modern alt arts or anything like that. So
Wow, throwing alt art shade like that. Alt
well,
arts are worth it.
well, they're great, but they're not like So I'll just take it to CGC at the National actually, since I'm still going every day, and I'll be able to get the grading done fairly quick. And
Are they doing on-site grading there?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, so are you gonna do it where you like get it back at the show?
yeah,
So we'll know by the next podcast how it went.
absolutely.
Ooh, spooky.
Hopefully,
So,
hopefully it's not a 9.
yeah, or an 8.5. That would be bad. Yeah, so tune in next week and we'll give you the results of Radar's grading experiment and how it went. But since you kind of mentioned it, alternate art. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of alternate arts, and I'm not gonna relax everyone on the other side of the screen. I'm not gonna sit and shill alternate arts for the next 30 minutes directly. But
Directly.
I wanted to ask you, have you looked at any of the stuff for the two Japanese sets, the one that's getting ready to release, the one that already really, or actually they might have both already released at this point, but then are gonna be together in our English set. So I think it's like Dark Phantasma and I have it
Lost,
up here. Hold on,
Lost
Lost
Abyss.
Abyss.
Yeah.
And then that's gonna lead into like our Lost Origin set that we're getting in September. Have you looked at any of that stuff yet?
Yeah, mostly people are going crazy about the Aerodactyl alt art, but yeah, it tends to happen. I feel like every year, the last set is the juicer, at least in.
Well, so this is our second to last for us.
Oh,
So we get this one in September. We'll have another one in November.
oh, well, like a full set in November. Oh yeah, we will. Okay.
Yeah, because this will be Sword and Shield 11, and then Sword and Shield 12 will come in November. So every
Oh,
standard Pokemon era is 3 years, 4 core sets a year. So
right.
obviously we've kind of gotten off that track the last few years because they did all the specialty sets like Shining Fates and all that Hidden Fates, all that crap. Which Hidden Fates was even before that, but they've always done the 4 core sets a year. And so that for a standard block, that leads you into 3 years being the block. And this is how we kind of always know like the Pokemon video game releases are going to come in November. In fact, this year I was actually like there's a quote in our Discord, like I'm 99% sure if you look it up. It's either there or it's on like Twitter or something. Where I said the exact day I thought the game would release and nailed it. Because it's almost always going to be one of two weekends. It's either going to be the second weekend of November or the third weekend of November, like almost always. And that's because it leads them up into the holidays.
Yeah.
It makes sense for video games to release during that period, but also the blocks are always 3 years, so we always know kind of when the next cycle of games are coming, and they've followed this for quite a while now. So I think all the way since Black and White, maybe even before that. I don't remember how many years Diamond and Pearl was, but
Mm.
Black and White for sure was 3 years. X, Y, Sun and Moon, now Sword and Shield, and then Scarlet and Violet will be 3 years as well. So So yeah, so we'll have one more set in November, and
Okay.
and you are right about the set 12 usually is a juicer, whereas set 11 not always a juicer. If
Right.
we look back, so the era I kind of always look because Sword and Shield's been a little wonky. We had the big heyday period during Sword and Shield,
Yeah.
so I'm really hesitant to ever compare anything apples to apples with Sword and Shield. But if you look at Sun and Moon, Cosmic Eclipse was the last set, juicer. But the set before that, I think, was I keep wanting to say Astral Radiance, but it's Unified Minds. And Unified Minds wasn't great out the gate, but ended up being really good long term. That was the Mewtwo set. It
Oh
had
yeah. Yeah. The
decent alternate arts in it. Yeah, and I
mhm.
mean Mewtwo ended up winning Worlds that year, so like Mewtwo was the absolute juicer. Um, but yeah, I don't know how to feel about this set.
Yeah,
I
it's being
Go
hyped
ahead.
up like crazy by everyone that I know at least. Everyone is excited like none other for this set. And I don't
And
see it. Like
I don't either. I think that kind of feels like the Giratina effect, or Giratina, whatever people want to
yeah.
call it. That obviously really popular legendary Pokemon, but I don't think that Pokemon has enough to carry a set. And I know that we have some of the character rares coming out and things like that. But when I look at a set, like a new set, and I try to decide, is this set gonna sell? The first thing I always look at are what are like the top 3 chase cards in it, and are they going to be good enough that people would crack only to chase those, right?
Mhm.
Like let's go back to Evolving Skies, the set that a lot of people consider the best Sword and Shield set. I consider it the best set of all time. You
Wow.
look at the top 3 cards there. Yeah, I see your face. Yeah, maybe that should be a blep. You look at the top 3 cards though. You have the Umbreon, you have the Rayquaza, and then you have, pick one of the other evolutions. You could just take the 3 VMAXs that are left and put them together, right?
Mhm.
And those are good enough that someone would chase the set just for those. And so that to me said, this set's gonna be a banger. But then I go one step further and I'll say, okay, but let's put those aside. What's left? Would people still open this set for what's left? Obviously, that set had a regular Rayquaza V. It had a bunch of other alternate arts, Dragonite and Waver and things like that. And the answer was still yes, which that just tells you it's going to be an absolute Ken Griffey Jr. Grand Slam home run. Like juicer, out of the park juicer, right? So I look at this set. So Lost Abyss is the Japanese one. Lost Origin is the English, I believe. Like,
Yes. Yes.
confusing name. I look at the top 3 cards, and right now I'm kind of feeling like it's gonna be the Giratina, the Aerodactyl, and like maybe one of the character rares, maybe the alternate art. I mean, there's what like Galarian Meowth, there's Rotom, which would look pretty cool.
Mhm.
But I just regardless, I look at those top 3, and no matter what you plug into that third slot, I can't get a recipe that screams to me people are gonna rip for just those. At which point, it doesn't mean it's going to be a bad set, but then you go to kind of the bigger picture. And I look at the bigger picture, and I look at a lot of the Pokemon that are littered in. And you've got Gallade, Gardevoir, Galarian, Berserker. A lot of the full art trainers are pretty cool, but they're not like the really standout trainers that are like kind of the tier 1 trainers. And I just, again, don't see a set that people are going to wreck for. I think all of it together, you're still going to have that initial wave of it's a new set, it's exciting, competitive play, all those things. But I don't see a picture where people are ripping this long term to chase what's in it. Did you kind of like what was your
Like
vibe when you looked at
it's
the actual cards in it?
it's amazing to me that Pokemon doesn't understand the equation of just making every set that. All this stuff is
I don't
great.
think that's fair. I gotta stop you. I don't think that's fair. I
But
think,
no,
first of all, I think Pokemon understands the equation of what they are doing better than anyone else does.
all they have to do is put one of the most like popular Pokemon, like one card in each set, a Pikachu, a Charizard, a Squirtle alt art, like anything. Like there's a good number of like popular Pokemon that are worth chasing like that, at least to a wide range of people. Because this is when you look at it, it's a great set. There's a lot there. I mean, there's a lot of debate about rainbow rares and gold cards, like why are they still a thing? But this is a great foundation of a set. It's a different variety of Pokemon that you get to see in character rares and alt arts and all that. But there's not a single like standout juicer, like you said. They can put one in there. Put one in there. You know?
And I think that's what Giratina is supposed to be, and I do think it will have a lot of legs. I mean, that card is
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous, the alternate
It's
art
too
V,
busy.
but
It's too
I don't
busy.
think it's enough. And I agree with you that they could just jam one juicer in every single set, guaranteed. People want to chase it, but I think Pokemon knows. And if you look at their block structure, we saw this through Sun and Moon. You know, you had Crimson Invasion, and then I guess Celestial Storm was probably supposed to be the equivalent of, even though they had Rayquaza, of like kind of your rein back, right? Your realign expectations of what a set is, so that because it comes out of this thing. Like I have this idea in my head that I'm trying to get out is the idea that if every single set is a banger, none of them are bangers, right? And I
Yeah.
think we started to experience this for a while where every set so far in Sword and Shield had been pretty good, or at least gotten better than the last. And then we got the battle styles, where everyone was like trying to write these narratives of like, oh my god, Tyranitar Ultra is the best card ever, you know, and they're freaking out about it. And like, it's like, okay, guys, first of all, Tyranitar is like a tier 3, if not tier 4 sell through rate Pokemon. Like, it's good, but it's not great. And its alternate art is good, but it's not great. It's not enough to sell a set. It's not enough to chase. But that kind of like realign the expectations, right? People made the
Hmm.
mistake. That's not Pokemon's fault that they made the mistake, assuming the set wasn't what it was. And Battle Styles has now kind of ended up being one of the weaker sets of Sword and Shield. Also, kind of fell in that set 4 or 5 area where they normally slot it. And then we go on and we get Chilling Reign, Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, you know, just banger, 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 to where they almost have to realign expectations before maybe they get us into that final set of the year or the specialty set that's coming early next year or leading us into Scarlet and Violet. Because if you don't, and every set feels like a home run, I think you run into two things. One, sets don't feel as exciting anymore because like you almost raise the bar of what it takes to make an exciting set, right? If they start plugging those cards in every single set, every set starts to feel the same, and the newness or the hypeness wears off. At which point, now to one up yourself, you have to go one step further than where you've already went. Whereas if you just release kind of like a B tier set in between there, kind of reset those expectations, you almost don't even have to one up yourself anymore. But the
Yeah.
other problem you have is if you keep slotting in those juicers and just you taking people set after set after set that they just got to empty their wallets, you hit consumer fatigue. And I think that's the last thing you want to do in September, which is kind of coming off the back of the summertime. People aren't going to be as excited about the hobby because, you know, outdoors, sports are wrapping up, school's starting again, things like that. Parents are going to be strapped on a budget. And you also don't want to wallet fatigue your customers going into the holiday season, right? That's usually why set 12, set 8, and set 4, bar and Crimson Invasion, are usually bangers,
Yeah.
right? Is because you hit that Christmas wave. And and I think that it makes sense. Realign expectations, have kind of a watered down set 11, and then set 12, they just hit a home run again.
Yeah.
And now you're at the holiday season. People justify spending money they don't have. It's going to be your last set before people move on to Scarlet and Violet. There's going to be tons of media publicity around the video games, which is inherently just going to be bring publicity around the cards, and you just absolutely crush your Q4, crush your holiday season, please your investors, please everyone, and you just go into the next cycle, right? And I think that makes sense. Um, Historically, set 11's actually usually been pretty good. Um, but this set, I think it makes sense coming off the back of what we've already had. I don't think they necessarily have like, okay, set 4 has to be a bad set, set 11 has to be a bad set. But I think it's more just like they have sets that they kind of realign expectations throughout each era. This one just happened to fall at 11.
Yeah.
And because this set to me just doesn't scream amazing, right? I think the Aerodactyl's amazing. I think it's one of the best alter arts we've had. But at the end of the day, it's still an Aerodactyl card. And a little shameless promotion, I did just post a video about alternate arts. And one of the things I talked about was with Noivern. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that Noivern? It's like
Yeah. It's
the
like that.
Karate Kick Noivern.
It's like a
Yeah.
Batman type style, I feel
Oh yeah,
like.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, like you can be Batman when he's up on like the
Yeah.
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 But, like I compared it to the Karate Kid when he does the crane kick when he like
Okay.
got his leg hurt. Yeah. So like, but that card is amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic reference pieces in it. Like whether you want it to be Batman or Karate Kid, it's still cool. A lot of nostalgia, amazing card, but it's a Noivern. So like, is that gonna be enough to sell a set? You know, is the Aerodactyl card gonna be enough to sell this set? And I don't think the answer is yes. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I'm
think this
really
stuff
nervous
will.
about this set
I think these type of
overall.
cards will be like above and beyond, like greatly appreciated in the future. Right now, they're not. I think because of that fact, like people are getting these alt arts and not really grading them as much. They're just grading the popular ones. I mean, there's still a ton being graded, but in comparison, so I think down the road, people will love opening the stuff to chase those types of alt arts, even though they're not popular Pokemon. I mean, it's like the Gold Stars. I mean, was Torchic and Mudkip in them? Were they really that popular then as starters? Like they
Well,
were
these
always
are
kind of
starters.
like living in the shadow of the original three and the Gen 2s as well. So they did some weird. That was like a weird Gold Star set in my opinion versus everything else that was out there. Um, but yeah, it's definitely, I think, being overhyped. People are gonna really go hard in it. I see it everywhere. Like, oh, Lost Origins is gonna be the best set ever. There was a lot of comments of it too in our last video. But yeah, just I think be patient. Wait for the next set. Like you said, that's gonna.
Well, and I don't think that means like you have to sit out, right? I
Oh,
think
don't
it just
sit
means
out.
be
Absolutely not. Yeah,
reason,
yeah,
sure, right? Like
yeah,
what open what you want to open for your collection to chase, to have fun, whatever. Buy some singles if you like, if you're a set completer. But I've seen a lot of people wanting to stonk out. And I think this is still
yeah.
part of the ripple effect of people always trying to write the narrative that the next thing coming is the next big thing, right? And I don't think this is. I do think that the elite trainer boxes, which I've already seen pre-orders falling all the way down to like 28 to 30 bucks, obviously plus shipping on top of that, so they're getting closer to that 35, 40 shipped.
Wow.
Um, but I the one thing about elite trainers that's really interesting to me, and I wanted to bring this up because the art on this one's really good. It is Giratina and it looks amazing. Um, is that we've kind of went through a cycle of elite trainers that I think's kind of just flown under the radar as like lumped in like just bigger product releases. Is that for the longest time elite trainers were one and done. Pre-orders would go out with distributors, stores would order their whatever, they would get the amount either they wanted or some allocation of, and that was it. Elite Trainers never got reprinted until like 2020 when they did a reprint of Vivid Voltage. And then they did a reprint of, well, it wasn't really a reprint, but like Walmart ended up with Evolutions, ETBs, and we had a few others trickled in there, Darkness Ablaze, etc. And those like got put into the ecosystem, and now I think there's like this expectation that like elite trainers are going to get reprinted every set. I could see a world where we get back to the one and done on elite trainers, especially if we start just watching these prices plummet like right out the gate and then don't recover because nobody's going to order on additional waves anyways. They're not going to want them, so distributors aren't going to want to pick them up. Well, if distributors don't want to pick them up, stores aren't going to produce, or Pokemon's not going to produce them because stores don't want them. So if we get back to that point, and I don't know when that would be or if it will be, but if we did, I think the art on some of these starts to matter again.
Hmm.
Because now once that initial waves went out, if people want to go back and collect the elite trainers, specifically the ones with great art, where do they get them?
Do you think that's
And so
enough?
that's why I've been watching kind of which ones have good art versus which ones don't. Like I actually personally thought the Pokemon Go ones look pretty poor. I think
Yeah.
as Mewtwo being your flagship and Pokemon Go being such a strong, almost like pseudo IP within the Pokemon IP, I just think they could have done a lot more with it. So that one I wasn't very impressed by. Where it's like this one I actually think is just amazing. I think this one is one of the better ones that they've done. I thought the Darkrai one with Astral Radiance was really good. And so I'm just kind of hesitant on how many ETBs to order and like, do I want to gamble on kind of this long term? Like, they're only going to do one wave, they're not going to want to do one wave. So to me, I think the answer is like, if you're like, for example, if you're a collector out there, obviously you buy a booster box, you buy an ETB, you buy a few packs, whatever you're comfortable with. But if you're an ETB collector, you're almost never gonna get them cheaper than when that big first wave hits and everyone has to dump them, right? Like getting an ETB for like 35 bucks, that's like barely above distributor price plus shipping to where like unless you can like get them off the Walmart clearance rack, you know, you're not gonna
Hmm.
get them at a better price. So you might as well slot it in now. And that's kind of like been my focus a lot lately on, you know, I've started thinking about collecting the alternate arts. Spoiler. And like one of each just for me. And I'm trying to think about how I would go about this, like, in a pragmatic way, and to me, it's I should probably start with the things that haven't had a price spike, but potentially could. And so if I was an ETB collector, I would think about the same thing, right? Could I go buy that $4,000 Plasma Storm ETB, or should I buy all the ones first that haven't went through 2,000% gains or whatever it is, that are like 25, 30, 35 bucks that are still accessible and not take that chance? And so to me, I think the ETB is one I would grab now because I do think it has great art, and I do see a world where if the variables fall right, those could go up over time. But
There's a
other than
couple
those,
things there because that whole collecting strategy has been. I mean, there's a lot of push towards collecting the most expensive and the rarest first. You know, you hear that a lot from people. So you kind of went the opposite there. Not the opposite. You went with a more strategic. You're not buying the cheapest. You're buying what you think is.
it's the opposite, right? Like most people say, not like you said, knock out the big thing first. But to
Yeah.
me, I see that as like you're knocking out the thing that's already had the percent growth. Now, I guess that's with the assumption that like you could hit another big wave period and it could grow more, right? But sometimes I see those big cards as almost like having a ceiling. Like think of how like let's take gold stars for example. Say you were going to collect gold stars today. Some of the gold stars like Charizard, Rayquaza had insane growth during the hype period to where their ceiling on like a short term like 3 to 5 years, I mean, could they even feasibly go much higher than what they did? The answer to me has to be no. Whereas you have some of your lower end ones, like let's take the Gold Star dogs, the ones that have the thousands and thousands of copies out there, and go to Facebook groups right now. There are people picking up thousands and thousands of copies of those right now because they're surfacing again.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm talking binders worth.
Yeah.
And if I was gonna start collecting mine and I wanted to have the gold stars in it, whether I think they should exist at this point or not, I'd probably buy those first because they're probably gonna be cheaper now than what they have with all of those flooding out than what anything else. You know, the same with like the Reggies that didn't really spike nearly as much during the big heyday. To me, it's all about percent growth. How much money am I having to spend at each interval? And if a lot of these things haven't had big growth, it feels like either they're never gonna grow, which is fine because 'cause I'm just collecting, right?
Mhm.
Or they're on that track of they would be the next in line to do it. And we tend to see that, right? Your big things grow and then the other things follow.
Yeah.
And so either it's not gonna happen and you don't care, or it is going to happen, so you wanna catch it before. Whereas the other stuff, you're catching it at the top anyway. So whether you buy it now or later, I don't know. It's tough. It's just a difference in preference, difference in
Yeah.
strategy, and there's no right or wrong
Yeah.
because you're
You're.
never going to be able to time it perfectly. But to me, I just see so many alternate arts out there right now that I just don't fathom. Like Honch Crow. I put this one in my video. I think Honch Crow looks amazing. I think it looks really like I love the cards where Pokemon look like they're in the real world,
Mhm.
and it's like 12 bucks.
Oh
Like, how
wow.
much lower can that card go?
That's
I
why.
I
Well,
just
that's
don't see it
that's
going
why
lower
I
ever.
that's why I love the gym sets, but people hate the gym sets because of that.
The like Gym Heroes?
Yeah, Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge. People don't like those sets, and I've heard it many times because the art is like it's because they're like in the real world. Like they don't like it. They have a
Oh, yeah, yeah,
positioned
yeah.
weird on the card, like all that stuff. So these are
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I've always enjoyed it. To
yeah,
be fair, I also like Gym Hero. Gym
yeah,
Heroes I like better than Gym Challenge. I know I'm in the minority there, but I just at the end of the day, regardless of which specific one, right? Let's do Celebi, right? Celebi isn't really in the real world. It looks like it's in the Pokemon world. It looks
yeah,
like it's in the Shrine Forest, right? Or like the forest with the shrine. It's like 20 bucks, 22 bucks. I think the Japanese one's even cheaper. It's They're alternate arts. They are the ultra rare chase cards of this era. Are they ever going to be $300 crazy Umbreon VMAX tier? Probably not. There's always going to be a threshold within the collector tier.
Mm-hmm.
But there are going to be the people that want all of them. All of them. And so over time, as supply quits getting ripped and what's out there is out there, and attrition happens, some of these inherently should trend up. And even if they don't, what are the odds they trend down? Right? And that's more what I look at. Like, what's Honchkro's potential of going from 12 to 20? Over time, decent, I would say. What are its odds of going 12 to 6? Like 6 is like that threshold, right? Because like, or sorry, it gained $8, 66%, so like 12 to 8, right? So like $8. That's like a threshold of like, I would start buying bulk alternate arts at $8
Or
because you
10.
can just start making Amazon bulk lots out of them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
And that, like, I feel like we've already hit that tier of like the people buying it at 12 or like the collector tier. And like, if there's any momentum towards that card, it's just going to take off.
Yeah.
And so, and this isn't like a PSA to like go buy a bunch of Honchkrows, right? When I try to look at these, to be fair, I don't even own a Honchkrow. Like, I don't
Hurry
want
up
to
and get
sell it
one.
either. You know, I think those are two of like the best ones to buy right now because they just make the most sense for the value you're getting for what you're paying. And this is where I think a lot of people in the community are going to readjust their focus over the next few years from where it's been, you know, of buy that hype card before it's going to spike another 300% over the next 3 weeks versus what am I actually getting for my money? You know, if I have to pick between 3 alternate arts and I like them all equally, but one's 20, one's 40, one's 60, well, just buy the 20. You're getting the same amount of enjoyment for a third of the cost.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's how I see it. I think alternate arts are one of those unique categories where, unlike a gold star, right? Gold star, generally your best ones are the most expensive. Charizard, Rayquaza, Pikachu, Mewtwo, etc. Some of the best alternate arts with the best art are not the best Pokemon. You know, if you look, we just talked about Aerodactyl more than almost any card in this upcoming set. And Aerodactyl is not a relatively popular Pokemon. I would say it's probably decently low on the list.
Yeah.
And yet this has one of the best arts. One like to where I feel like people would open the set later when it's a hard to get set to chase a card like that. Do you feel that same way about? Or
I
like,
agree. Yeah. Yeah. I wish there was I know there's a Pidgeot V in there. I wish they did a Pidgeot alt art that was kind of like mirroring.
oh man, oh could you?
That would have been
Though,
awesome.
okay, maybe I'm alone in this, but do you wish they would do more collaboration with the actual anime in the cards? Or is that just like a me thing?
So that just sparked something in my head. Imagine a Ho-Oh alt art from episode 1.
Where it flies through. Yes, that's what I was thinking. So like Ash with his, you know, he had Pidgeotto.
Yeah.
And then eventually he let Pidgeotto go, right? Like you could do one with Butterfree too.
Butterfree,
Right? Like bye bye Butterfree. Oh, bye bye
Pidgey,
Butterfree. Could you imagine bye bye Butterfree alter art? Oh.
It'd be massive. Yeah. Like that would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and look at like Ash's Greninja. When they did that, you know, that was a big deal because Ash had Greninja in the anime. That was huge. Greninja became the most popular Pokemon in Japan. They actually made Ash's Greninja as a card.
Mm-hmm.
But then in Japan, they also did like the DVD that had like the Ash Greninja card. They did the DVD that had I don't know the girl's name, but she had the Eevee in the next movie. But like they do those like overlap collabs a lot, and we just tend to not see as much of that brought over here.
Well,
And maybe it's because they assume the English market doesn't care about the anime as much.
That's why I love DBZ Score so much. They're direct pictures, they're direct like film cells essentially from the anime, and I can go to a card and remember the exact moment in that show, and that's why I love that so much. People love Dragon Ball Super way more, but yeah. So that, I mean, I only know the very beginning of the anime, plus the first couple movies, maybe first 3 movies, like the Entei one or whatever. So absolutely.
The Entei one or whatever, the disrespect. Oh no. The Entei one or
But no, I like that, like knowing if there are other people that feel that way, and I know there are, that it would be huge. I mean, I wouldn't care for the depictions that I don't have a nostalgic attachment to, because that's what collecting is to me. It's just nostalgia. So, but yeah, I would go crazy. I mean, the Mewtwo Strikes Back, yeah, that Ho-Oh, if that was an alt art, it would be insane. Bye bye Butterfree.
Yeah, it would be. And it doesn't even have to be like a direct picture, right? It could just be like Ho-Oh with like the gold shimmer flying through a sky overhead with like a silhouette of a character. It doesn't even have to be the character from the
Yeah,
anime,
they
right?
switch it because it
Like
was a silhouette.
with the light looking up.
Yeah, they switched it up. Like it was a silhouette of a Ho-Oh. You didn't see it. Like people thought it was a Firo, like at some point. So do a silhouette of the character instead and show the Ho-Oh like that. Yeah.
All right, Pokemon, you hear that?
Like
Sign us up. We are your
that's
new...
what they need in their boardrooms talking about ideas for their cards. Done. Easy.
Sometimes I wonder like how much of this stuff they don't do because they don't have to, or how much of this stuff they can do, want to do, have it on their list to do, but they save it for like almost like apocalyptic mode. Like Pokemon's brand's dying, we need to reboot, like we can do these things, right? And so like it's almost like you never use your best stuff if you don't have to. Which is why I've always felt the card game tends to get better during lower periods, right? So like before Pokemon really took off, when we started the Sword and Shield block, Sword and Shield was already becoming really good. Like I still think Rebel Clash is like an extremely good set. I know I'm in the minority, but like, and then we just like
Steam Siege, Rebel Clash, Steam Siege, Rebel Clash.
No, okay, whoa. Are you comparing those two?
No, I'm just saying that's you like all these sets that no one likes.
No, okay.
I mean, I guess battle styles. You agree?
You're gonna label me as one of those guys. Oh, he just likes all the bad sets. No, that's not the case at all. No, I just No, okay, quote me on this. 5 years from now, we're gonna be talking about how everyone slept on. Look at Rebel Clash box prices. We're gonna talk about how people slept on it. It has Dragapult in it. It has Melodic in it, which has historically the ultra rares have always been good. Even the hollow rares of Melodic have been good. It has Ninetales in it, tier 2, extremely good sell-through rate Pokemon, really popular. The full arts on both of those have retained. I think they're like $8 to $10 a piece, maybe a little bit of dip because of the current like downtrend. But that set has a lot going for it. It has a Giovanni card. I think it's Giovanni, or maybe or was that the set that had Marnie? I don't even know. But I'm telling you, Rebel Clash, banger. I actually think Sword and Shield base is a banger too. Sword and Shield base had Marnie. But like I think 5 years from now, everyone's gonna talk about like, man, how did we miss Rebel Clash? Like, how did we not recognize that set was relevant? But that's a totally different tangent. We can get into that another day.
Well, yeah, like the vintage stuff,
hobby or whatever.
Yeah, the vintage stuff too. The E series, like maybe they were like, all right, let's up the artwork. Let's make this awesome because we're about to lose the license or whatever. Maybe we can keep it. Yeah.
Well, and like we've seen it before, right? Like you had mentioned the Trico, Mudkip, Torchic Gold Stars, which were Team Rocket returns. For the longest time, Team Rocket Returns wasn't even like the 3 most talked about EX era sets. It was always like Holland Phantoms, Crystal Guardians, and like EX Deoxys, you know? Whereas now I would say most people, it's like EX Deoxys, Team Rocket Returns. And like those two are like pretty close together. Because over time, people gained appreciation for what that set was, what it encompassed, and just kind of the theme of it. And, I think that there's always going to be that gem of a set. You know, Cosmic Eclipse was that for Sun and Moon. That people did not appreciate that set the way they should have when it came out. I remember when the characters like Piplup cards were like $1. It released. Pikachu was like $2. And those obviously spiked up over time. Set had less printing, blah, blah, blah. But like now the appreciation for Cosmic Eclipse is super high. And so I always love to look at eras and see like what set was good, but it wasn't felt like it was great at the time. That's why I keep going back to Fusion Strike. I know everyone's gonna start labeling me as a Fusion Strike shill, but dude, it's Espeon, Gengar, and Mew that like dude. If you would have told me in 2019 that Pokemon in their biggest boom period ever was gonna release a set that the flagship Pokemon were Espeon, Gengar, and Mew, I would have told you this was probably one of the best sets of all time. And like, not to mention that like it's underliers, right? Like its backup team is like Celebi. like home run, dude. We're just playing baseball all day, baby. And like that Yeah, I just Fusion Strike. I think that'll be the one of the Sword and Shield era that
Yeah,
people go back
I think it's very
because of the way the
underappreciated.
waves happen, the error boxes, all that. That people go back and they overweighed those variables and they realize how good that set actually is. I mean, I think Gengar will end up being one of the top 10 alternate arts price wise of all of them
Yeah,
because Gengar historically just does really well and has a large collector
I
pool.
don't I
But
don't like that card, but yeah,
well,
people. I know
okay, okay, okay.
it's a.
Explain it.
I just like it's like the Giratina. It's too busy. It's too busy.
Okay, okay. So
I
you
like
like
simple. I'm a
can you
simple
give me an
man.
example of a not busy alternate art that you like?
The Aerodactyl. Just it's simple. It's a
Not busy? There's like 900 Pokemon in the Aerodactyl one.
no. He's flying over the nice air. The nice greenery. It's nice and simple.
Nice greenery.
It's simple. There's
That's so funny to me because there's like a Shieldon and a Tropius, and like Tropius is like leaning down so the Shieldon can like eat his like coconut or whatever.
That's
And like
fine. The Giratina's got lines and details all over the place. You can't tell where the
I
card
know what you
starts
mean.
and
I'm
where.
just saying, like when you say it's like, oh, it's got nice greenery, it's simple, and then you've got that guy over here with his like magnifying glass that's like zooming in to
That's
see the
a
Tropius.
that's a
It's like,
great
what?
little minor detail. That's not busy. That's a great little detail.
Okay, okay. So you cluttered. That's
Cluttered.
what
Cluttered.
cluttered.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think Gengar feels cluttered. Whereas, see, I saw it as like Gengar's like the big haunted house and has all the lights
Yeah.
around it. You're like going in, so it's like a theme park.
Yeah. That would be a great artwork. Like put it on my wall, blow it up. Fantastic.
Put it on the wall.
But
Put it on my
a
card.
tiny small car, too busy.
Too busy.
Also,
This is why alternate arts are so great, though, because you can have just like real art, right?
yeah,
You can have two people look at it, and one person loves it for this reason, and another person hates it for the exact same reason.
yeah,
And like, whereas like full arts or just secret rares or whatever, they don't really have that. It's either like I love the Pokemon or I hate the Pokemon. I love the way the Pokemon's standing. I hate the way the Pokemon's standing. Whereas like this is so much more than that, right? Like even if you're not an Aerodactyl fan, fossil Pokemon fan, think the art's busy or not busy, whatever. Maybe you just like the Tropius and his interaction with the Shieldon, so you like the card. And I'll give you the example of this is in the Articuno alternate art. There is a rufflet on a tree branch. I mean, dude, he's tiny. He is like, dude, he's like that big, like that big. And you zoom in on that, and he's there. And I like Rufflet. I like Articuno too. But even if that was like a Pokemon, like a terrible one, like Glade or something, I know I just angered a lot of people there. But if it was a bad Pokemon and Rufflet was in the background, I'd still like that card. And I think that's what makes alternate arts so much different than anything we've ever had in this hobby before is that it's like real art.
yeah,
And I think it really blends the two aspects of the hobby that people really enjoy, which is collecting and the appreciation of the art. I mean, look at YouTube videos and forum boards and stuff like that today of how many threads and topics pop up now of people just appreciating the artists and the art that they do. Whereas how much there were always people that did that, but not to this scale. We have that so much more in the hobby now, and I feel like this is just like building on that.
yeah,
And I think that's something Pokemon in the Sword and Shield era, not just with alternate arts, but just the art on the actual all of the cards themselves, the promos, the different releases, specialty things, stuff like that that they've done really well, is hitting home new kinds of art, different variations of art, stepping outside of the realm of what, I feel like for many years, Pokemon just kind of felt generic. It just felt like a cycle, these this archetype of card full arts were going to be like the cool art of the set and everything else was just going to be the bland same old you've experienced it, whereas now we have cards like the Remoraid that's like balancing the sticks and it's a common but people love it because it has amazing art, the Smeargle that has like the different watercolors all around it,
mhm.
that really like highlights what Smeargle is as a Pokemon. Like, dude, I'm telling you, I know this wasn't the Blep that was picked, but dude, the Sword and Shield era is going to go down as the best era. Dude, I'm telling you, it just, oh my God. It is. But we don't have to get
We'll
into
see.
that. We'll get into the what Blep or Blip one. But before we do, I want to ask you, I'm just pivoting us. I'm pivoting because I'll talk about all the arts all day.
I have
Yes.
one more quick circle back though.
Okay, go for it. Circle back.
Your ETB conversation. Do you think
Okay.
that was a result of Hidden Fates? Because obviously Hidden Fates specialty set only ETBs. That started, I think, the whole craze of Pokemon at retail stores again. That's what people were going nuts over first. sold out everywhere. Everyone was requesting ETBs of Hidden Fates because they wanted the promo from it. They wanted the most packs they could get out of a product. Do you think that I'm kind of calling Pokemon dumb enough to think that all the requests from a Hidden Fates ETB bled into their process of reprinting and overprinting modern ETBs that don't have that promo, that aren't from specialty sets?
No, I think Pokemon
I hope they're
probably
smarter.
does not weigh out their standard sets based on what a specialty set does. They may take some influence from certain things, but I think the thing that really probably drove the all right, we're going to do multiple waves of ETBs. We're going to take additional orders of these. There's a collector base for it now. People are buying out all the Target cereal tins or whatever those things were to like store them in, that I think it was the Vivid Voltage ones. They released Vivid Voltage. It had a Pikachu on the side. Pikachu's obviously extremely collectible. Almost every sealed Pikachu product historically has went up in value. You don't believe me? Go to Amazon and look. It's actually crazy. And people wanted them, and I think a lot of the really like in tune with the market people knew that about the Pikachu product, so they hoarded them, they stockpiled them, and what happened, they spiked up, but they spiked like 70, 80, even like I think they were like 90 to 100 at one point.
Yeah.
It was two prong, right? Pokemon saw, well, we can make a lot more money here, but we can also appease our consumer base because they had a massive flood of people that came in right around that Battle Styles time, which was off the back of Vivid Voltage. And so it was arguably their newest or one of their newest sets that people just didn't have accessibility to. And, were newly entered in the hobby. And what does Pokemon want to do more than anything? When people enter the hobby as a new consumer, they can access what the cool hype talk about thing is right now.
Yeah.
And that was Vivid Voltage. It was the amazing rares. It was the great gym leaders and the character and theme of that set. It was the hyper rare Chonkachu. And what illuminated that more than anything, other than Chonkachu on the side of the ETB. And
Okay.
so they had to almost make those more accessible. I think something like a Darkness Ablaze reprint of ETBs, which I'm not really sure anyone was asking for, but they were expensive at the time, was more of a like, oh, okay, people bought the Vivid Voltage one, so let's just go the set before. Whereas like Eternatus, I don't think had nearly as much staying power as like what like a Charizard would have, but they couldn't have done Charizard because they did it for
Right.
Champion's Path. That's why
And
Champion's Path
evolutions.
worth nothing, and yet the ETBs still continue to rise.
Yeah.
And I think Pikachu was that same way. And I think they almost had to do it, even if maybe they didn't want to break that cycle of doing it. And now, because we didn't get a massive wave of Brilliant Stars ETBs again. I
Oh.
think there was like wave one, there was maybe a little bit trickle of wave two, and that was it. We didn't see a massive Astral Radiance one. I got my initial wave, unless I just didn't get a wave two. I never saw any additional of those. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe we're back to that point, whereas I did get additional waves of booster boxes. So maybe we are back to that point of one wave of ETBs and done. But yeah, for your question, I think the big move was Vivid Voltage
Okay.
specifically. And if we look back, I don't know how Vivid Voltage is going to be seen historically for the hobby because a lot of it has been opened and a lot of it has been printed. But that set was kind of a turning point for the hobby. And it led into the hype period. It led into a new archetype of amazing rares that obviously didn't last, but then they transitioned into alternate arts and things like that, which they'd already had those before, but like brought them back and went hard. And it had Chonkachu, it had like it commanded YouTube for like 6 months
Yeah.
beyond its release date. And that's a big deal for a set to not get overshadowed by what's after it. I mean, how many people opened Battle Styles for the first month and then went right back to Vivid Voltage? And that's a big deal for the hobby. That's a big deal for Pokemon. And I think that's what contributed to kind of shaking up that ETB cycle that we had kind of always experienced. Now, I do know that they did do those Hidden Fates ones. I think that's more of like cashing in on a specialty set, and the fact that Hidden Fates out the gate was never printed to demand, and even today is still continually rising in price. I mean, I'm not sure they would have had to have print so much more to ever get Hidden Fates to the point that it met demand. I mean, look at Shining Fates. look at how much of that set they had to print before it finally just could not pull itself back up. You know what I mean? In terms of like the card prices, the ETBs are still low, etc.
Yeah.
And that didn't have a promo that was like that promo EV was like $3-4 out the gate. And they still just had to print so much of it because it was a fun set to open. And so the values almost didn't matter. People didn't care. They just wanted the enjoyment of feeling like they pulled something cool, regardless of what it was worth. And they just kept doing it. They just kept doing it. And I almost wonder if like Shining Fates then was like a case study of like, all right, how far do we have to go with this before a set just like will not recover? Because someday it will. I really do believe it will. It has a giant EV on the side of the ETB. The set itself is still relatively good. But like at least in the short term, that set has been suppressed down because they just hammered it into the ground.
Yeah.
Whereas Hidden Fates, they probably would have had to have done another 6 months to a year of print runs to get it to that point. And it's probably a good thing they didn't, because that set's going to go down as arguably one of the greatest sets they've ever done. So yeah, Vivid Voltage would be my very long answer.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But now I want to pivot you. Now I have to hear about it before we because we got to get to the blips and bleps and stuff. But I want to hear a little bit about it at least, because I have never been.
Yeah.
If y'all don't know, you're going to be seeing this on Monday, which will be right after the conclusion of the Sports Card National in Atlantic City. I've never been because while I love watching sports, I've never really been into sports cards, even though I feel like I'm watching them get broken every single day now. But you have went. And this is your second year in a row going. So how's your experience been? Tell us a little bit about the show, what you've done, what you've seen.
Yeah.
And just
well, it's Friday morning right now. So I'll be going after this. And I'll be going Saturday as well with PokeRev and Cool Trainer Ryan. But so far it's been a huge disappointment on the Pokemon end. Like now, expectation wise, last year I bought a Trophy Pikachu. I bought a pretty big like raw collection for a Steel.
But to be fair, real quick, that Pikachu was still from a predominantly sports card vendor.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, it was. Yeah. So, but in general, there was just a lot more Pokemon to look at there. At this show now, there's just not. There's a couple booths with decent stuff. There's a couple booths with good stuff, but the prices are astronomically high where I don't even feel good about offering on them. Like, for example, there was a PSA 10 first at Nidoking, $10,000. I'm not going to offer on that because last one was like 4,500, $5,000, something like that.
You don't want to insult the person selling it.
Yeah. So it also turned, it's always been corporate-y, but it is on another level of corporate-y. Like my past job in the industrial automation world, I would go to shows, go to these types of events, which are, you're not like, there's not people vending robots or whatever, but it's starting to get that feel of like, of overly corporate-y.
The money has entered.
Yeah.
And they're almost like engulfing the show.
Yeah. And, it's cool to see Topps. It's cool to see Panini. It's cool to see whoever. But they're taking up so much space away from tables, from vendors, I feel like. And, everybody knows these people. Everybody knows these cards. We see what's going on. We don't need you guys to show off and take up a bunch of space and take away from what the show, I guess, started as a card show. So, it's still.
You feel it's going more from like a card show, vendor show to almost like a marketing show?
Yeah, 100%. And I know they started like the industry summit thing recently, or maybe that's an old show too, but that's like a Vegas show that is purely corporate. And they do have tables there as well, but it's like really treated as a corporate show. Like they overcharge for tickets and like it's crazy. So that's what it seems like it's turning into. There's still an endless, like you could go a day, spend 10 hours and find something new the whole time, see a table you didn't see before. But it's 99% sports this time instead of 90% sports. Um, there's also no internet in the building, so nobody can like look up prices. So selling and trading, whatever, is very
The
difficult to do.
strategy.
Yeah. And it's yeah, it's there's more Pokemon people there, I guess, this year as well, but yeah, it's just not it. This is not what I
Thought it
expected.
was gonna.
Yeah, I thought that they would really do a better job of pushing TCG and all that stuff for this show, but it seems like they've drawn away
They
from it.
really want to stay sports
That's
and
what
stay in
that's
that wheelhouse. And
that's what it feels
obviously,
like.
if other vendors want to bring other stuff, that's their prerogative. And
Yeah.
because I wonder, when you were saying that, one of the things I was thinking about is because, like I said, I've never been, but I have been to cons. But most of the cons I've been, you'd see more hobby stuff than you'd see sports.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I was thinking about is, do you think you saw a lot of Pokemon last year because of the big boom, which maybe gave you an unrealistic expectation of what to expect, whereas now vendors have corrected into, okay, Pokemon sizzled down, people aren't as interested, sports,
Yeah, no,
what we're here
my
for.
like I was hoping to find some. Yeah, so last year 100% Pokemon was booming. Sports people knew about it, I'm sure, old stores, so they had some. It was hot, so it was selling for them. This year I was hoping to find those guys who got stuck holding on to it and would looking to dump it, but it seems like they've either already dumped it or they just didn't even bother bringing it because it's not selling. So,
Sure. You don't want to waste your limited case space with something
exactly.
1% of the room is showing up to see. And
Yeah.
also, you got to think if you're buying a booth, the Sports Card National, you're probably a relatively in tune vendor with just kind of like market trends and things like that, to where I could absolutely see it being what you said, where they've already dumped it, right? They already saw the trend happening as it happened and said, I need to get out from under this. So they didn't have a lot to bring. And the
Yeah.
ones that maybe are less in tune are the ones with their Nidoking still at 10,000, or they are in tune and they're just trying to hope they catch that one person that's not in tune, right? That
Right.
really wants it.
Yeah.
So,
And like other things like Marvel took off, so Marvel probably took some of that market share of Pokemon
you've
space.
seen that there, like a lot of Marvel cards and PMGs and all that.
Yeah, like PMGs have kind of taken over. There's a couple vendors that I've seen at like the Dallas card show and other card shows that just like have full sets and just a stupid amount of PMGs. Um, so that's definitely kind of I've taken over. That probably took over, a Pokemon booth essentially, as well as like Star Wars and other kind of random new things that are really popping off right now. So yeah, it's just it's been a little disappointing. I mean, but the industry's shifting. Like Whatnot took over a good percentage of this whole show with like a breaking pavilion, so they just have all these breakers. Um, and then yeah, like Fanatics is coming in with all their different brands and taking up a bunch of space, and every
Since Ryan
single
now, which so they pretty much just own sports at this point.
yeah,
So
yeah, and they started Zero Cool, which is their non-sports side of things. They introduced Stranger Things 4 set that they're releasing.
it's
So
cool. I like things. So
yeah, yeah, it was enjoyable show to watch. But yeah, it's like it's the industry is shifting, especially on the sports side because of Fanatics. So um, I don't, and all the startups, like everybody is there that's doing, like every single Whatnot app type is there, and every single auction house is there, even the ones you don't even know of. Um, so it's yeah, it was just it's been a little bit of a letdown. The show's so long too, so I mean, if you're a sports guy, it's great. You could spend all week, all 5 days, finding something, looking at something, talking to someone. But I burnt out just about every Pokemon, even like non-sports booth in the first like half day. Um, I've been hanging out with Pokenomics Jake the past couple days. He's really interested in all the weird old stuff like the 1966 Batman and 50s Superman and 30s Mickey Mouse, like whatever gum pack type stuff. So I just kind of like started talking about that with him and looking at stuff like that with him, and ran into some. I did a trade with a Pokemon friend who was with like an older guy that is all into that stuff, and it was like one of the most interesting conversations. He was off the rails, but he was a very interesting person talking about his 1935 Mickey Mouse sets and crazy things. So there's a lot of unique things to learn.
Some of that kind of stuff bleeds in there, though,
Yeah,
because like I would have expected that it's mostly sports and that maybe you just occasionally find somebody with something else. But it's cool that it's kind of almost. I mean, maybe I guess less this year based on what you're saying, but like turning into kind of just a card convention instead of like a sports card or a trading card convention, but just cards in general, collectibles in general. Um, but I will say that I'm not surprised by what you're saying. Like I said, I've never been, but I do remember a few years ago, I remember when eBay got a booth, but it wasn't just that eBay got a booth. They like had breakers come into their booth and break cards, which breaking was obviously really taking off in sports at the time. And then there were a bunch of other booths, like I think Beckett might have done it. Don't quote me on that, but I think they might have. But like there were a bunch of these more corporate entities that you would normally expect to just have a little booth off to the side to like plug whatever they're doing, bringing in influencers, bringing in people to break, like bringing in attention to their booths. And it almost felt like that was the start of a trend to where now it's like you said, Whatnot has a massive pavilion where they've got people breaking and they're promoting their app, and because that's what the app is, right? And you've got, Fanatics there doing their thing and breakers, and I'm sure there's just breakers literally everywhere. I'm sure half the booths themselves have somebody in there breaking in the booth because, that's like the brand in the business. That it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, I think influencer culture and everyone being a brand of themselves, right? Your Radar, I'm Squeaks, we are Collectible Conversations. I think that is just kind of the way the world is going. And even more so, something like collectibles, where a lot of it is showing off what you get or opening for other people or things like that. That a convention of that size is going to shift towards that because that's where the money is, right? And at
yeah,
the end of the day, this whole thing is about making money for the people putting on the show, the people that are buying booths at the show, etc. Even if maybe that's not quite what the attendees of the show are wanting as much. Like I personally would not want to show up to watch a live break. I could do that at home.
right.
I would want to show up to see things I haven't seen before, maybe to get to talk to people I haven't gotten to talk to before, or get access to cards and boxes and stuff like that I normally wouldn't have access to.
Well, Gary V's there with his V friends, and absolutely crushing it. It's disgusting. Like he just started an
I'm not
actual
surprised,
trading
though,
card
right?
game with them now, and like he has a line nonstop. People are
Wait,
opening
there's
pack.
wait, 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 wait. There's a trading card game with VFriends?
It just
Is
came
it like
out.
a playable or just like you just trade the cards?
That's what it looks like. They have like little stats on them now. I think this is the introduction of it at the show. He's there opening packs with people
Can you
signing.
can you get them at the show?
Yeah, they have a whole booth, and there's just like there's a guy behind opening packs so they can sell singles, and then they're selling packs to people. $25 a
Do they have
pack.
booster boxes?
They have like these weird their own version of like one has
How
like
much are
it's
they?
like an orange box for 13 that has 13 packs. The packs I think are like $25 each to open, but I don't know if that includes like a auto with him and like open with Gary, because that's kind of how they're selling it. But yeah,
You should get us some. I'll split with you.
all right,
Well,
all right.
are we the Timmies? Are we
I
the
mean,
like?
like
I'm
there's numbered
intrigued, right? Because
cards
like,
in it too.
here's the thing.
Still,
I was not huge on VFriends. I was not huge on it because while I think Gary V always had the big plans for it, the initial of it still just seemed low effort, right? It seemed, what can I get out now?
hmm
To him, it probably just seemed like a what can I do myself, right? To where this is my contribution to this project versus just paying an artist to do it, right? Even if it's not going to be as good, it's kind of that idea of like when people fix up their house, could you pay a contractor to do certain things? Sure, but there's almost like an appreciation to like having done certain things yourself, even if it wouldn't be as good, right? And so maybe it was that degree. So I'll give him credit on that. But the whole NFT thing, just it wasn't my bag of stuff. But a trading card game is, and I love trading card games. I love any of that aspect. And that to me seems like a much more realistic progression of something like that. But it also seems like something I would be far more likely to support because it's tangible. It's something
Hmm.
I own, something physical. It doesn't crush the environment to produce it. It seems like something that I would actually be interested in. So now I'm curious. And I
Okay.
had never heard about this.
It's being
I don't know.
marketed
Maybe
as
after our podcast, I'll talk to you about picking some of it up, and
yeah.
maybe we'll even show the viewers
We
some on
could.
stream or
Yeah,
something
I'll
if it's
go.
available, or if you even want to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I said hi to him yesterday, and I didn't buy a pack or anything. I just yeah. So yeah, I'll take a look today when I go again, and but yeah, there's numbered cards in it still. But I just took a brief look, and there's like looks like there's little stats on them, and it's being marketed as collectible trading card game. So whole new product that they're moving there, and he is like nonstop selling. It's crushing it
Oh, I that does
crushing
not
it.
surprise me because he could literally have cards with just different colored poop emojis on it, dude, and people would buy it because it's
Yeah,
Gary Vee, right?
yeah,
Like at this point, his name is worth the value of just about everything, right? And
yeah.
like it would have to be a really, really bad product for people not to buy it with his name on it. And I think a lot of these influencers, that's always the dream, right? You get to the point where you put your name on something and it's valuable because it has your name on it, right? That's like on Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, that's like his whole MO, right? Is like me putting my name on something and what my name means and the value of it. There's value in that alone. Like you should be paying me just for my name, you know? And so let alone like the business experience and stuff he brings to the table. So that doesn't really surprise me that it's sold like crazy. But I am curious to know more. So I'll talk to you after the podcast. We'll figure all that out. But we
Okay.
won't bore people with our, our logistics of it. But maybe I would just love to get some of it and maybe open it on the podcast for people to see what it was,
Yeah.
what it is. That's kind
Okay.
of a little out of the sports card realm. It's a little unique to be there, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but before we go to Blips and Bleps, I want to ask you one last thing because you had mentioned kind of more unique stuff, tops cards, some of the stuff maybe that Jake was looking at there. Have you seen any of the old tops like Mario or Donkey Kong or
Not yet.
there's Sonic in 1993, like sealed booster boxes and stuff like that? Have you seen any of that there?
I haven't kept my eyes open for it, so no. There was one booth that had like Japanese Animal Crossing boxes and Zelda, and
Ooh, some of
uh,
those are actually.
their juice.
I have a
Yeah,
few back here,
yeah.
but
But that was yeah. I haven't seen any of that stuff. I haven't really looked for it though either.
okay. Well, now you've got some new things
Yeah.
to go look for on your adventure, so it'll give you an opportunity to go back through booths and feel
I
reinvigorated
guess. Yeah.
by the cons.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's the national. I hope you have fun in your last few days hanging out with Ryan and Rev and Jake if you see him again and everyone else there. But everyone's been wanting to know Blips and Bleps, but we still have to talk about last week's.
Which was
So the one that I saw that won for two reasons. One, it had the most comments, and I got the most direct DMs about it was One Piece. But also on our retention graph, there was a massive spike at One Piece.
okay.
So I'm gonna assume that One Piece won.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of the whole, we can just talk about the card game in general. The whole like hitting down that it's going to be the best one that Bandai's ever produced. A lot of that's going to come down to Bandai and how well they market it, how well they do the organized play of it. But the few reasons I made that claim and such a bold claim is one, I actually think the bar is pretty low. I think Bandai, arguably their most successful card game, in quotes, I'm not sure if it was Naruto, because they had 28 sets plus four subsets. And I don't know that there's been any longer than that, but maybe Dragon Ball Z, which, or
Mm.
Dragon Ball Super, I mean, because the
Oh,
first one was done by
yeah.
Score, right? So
Yeah.
they didn't do that.
Score Panini then. Yeah.
Um, and then they've had a few others, Digimon, things like that, but those just haven't had the legs yet, at least. That I would argue, I think Naruto is their longest one, but maybe I'm wrong. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure. But the thing about One Piece is that I feel like they've done differently. Even just watching what they did with Digimon and what they did with Dragon Ball Super in the last few years, is they have organized play figured out right out the gate. They didn't have a delay of Japanese product. We haven't seen yet if English will have a delay, but the hope is not, right? A lot of the supply chain issues are starting, to figure themselves out. The art on the cards is incredible. They didn't just lean into one art medium. So a lot of people thought, okay, they're just going to do anime style art or they're just going to do manga panels or whatever, but they're kind of doing a mix of everything. They I mean, we can't understate how big of an IP One Piece is. A lot of people out there probably have heard of One Piece, but maybe they didn't read it, or they've fallen under that myth of like, oh, it's too long, I don't want to, right? But One Piece is massive, and it's not just massive in Japan. I mean, first of all, I think other than Japan, I think France is like the biggest One Piece hub
Hmm.
like in the world other than Japan. And it's really, really big in the US to the point that Netflix is spending Game of Thrones size budget to produce a live action. One Piece is arguably the best it's ever been. So I'm an avid One Piece fan. And the manga, I mean, it's starting to enter its final arc, right? Otis came out and stated that this is what he's waited his whole career to write. This is him wrapping it up. He sees it as being like 2 to 3 years to the conclusion. So you're talking like 100 to 150-ish chapters. And it's done, right? The
Wow.
whole thing, which is still a lot, right? You're looking at like 1,200 chapters at that point, but that's a big deal. And so that not just Bandai, but Toei, Shueisha, One Piece, Oda, like they want to send this thing to the moon, right?
Yeah.
They want to ride this thing out in all its glory the whole way. And I think that's why they structured the card game the way they did. They didn't start it all the way back from the start, even though they called it Romance Dawn, which was the name of the first manga chapter. But they included one of the theme decks is based around the animal pirates, which are, from Wano, which is the current arc. They the one of the theme decks coming out soon is One Piece Film Red, which is the new movie that's coming out with Shanks. They're bringing a lot of the old favorite stuff back, but they're also really hitting down what is current, what is relevant. And I think they've figured out the formula of the things they did really well with Digimon and Dragon Ball Super and the things they didn't do so well and got rid of those. Now, again, we've only seen the Japanese release, but so far it's been pretty fluid.
Hmm.
And if we see the same thing for English and we see the organized play take off, like they said, they've already got the whole thing mapped out on how it's going to work in Japan. They've already got the World Championship scheduled.
Wow.
They've already got pre-releases scheduled for English, which like Digimon, like some of the pre-releases couldn't even happen because they couldn't get the product. Like, it was a whole mess.
Yeah.
It just really feels like they've hit it. And you combine that with how strong of an IP it is, and the fact that sometimes what makes a trading card game really good in the IP around it is that it can get a boost from things outside of the trading card game. Right. So just like how we talk about Gary V's trading card games, whatever he prints on those cards gets a boost from him as an influencer, him and his brand and what he's doing. If he does a new thing with V Friends, that's probably going to boost the trading card game. I think the same thing with One Piece. If that live action is good and a lot of people are interested in it, it's going to boost their interest in One Piece as a whole. If there's a really crazy chapter or a really crazy anime episode and that boosts a lot of interest in One Piece, that's going to boost people's interest in the card game,
Yeah.
right? And they all go in tandem. And I think that alone is going to carry this game really, really far. And then you just combine the people that are just interested in TCGs. They don't really care about One Piece, but they just want a new game to play, a new game to collect. They want to be a part of the cool new popular thing. I've had a lot of people message me about One Piece that are not One Piece fans, and they just want to know, is this the new thing? Is this going to be the thing that people are interested in, hyped about, want to talk about, whatever? Because they want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of that. It's like I feel like for those people, it's like what I was when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, and everyone was so excited, and I was not a Kingdom Hearts fan. And I like sat watching YouTube videos to like try to catch up on the story, which by the way, the story of that game is off the wall. But it's I wanted to be a part of it, even though I wasn't in that world at all. I
Yeah.
just wanted to experience the joy that everyone else was experiencing. And I think One Piece is going to do a really good job at capturing One Piece fans, card game fans, but also just bringing in a massive audience of people that are excited about something new that a lot of other people are excited about. And that's why I actually think that One Piece will be their most successful card game. I wouldn't be surprised if it breaks into like top 5 TCGs very, very early on. I wouldn't be. I noticed that you just looked down. Did you just see my cat? I
Yeah.
saw my cat in the thing. Yeah, dude, every day. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I think that One Piece. I think it's got the traction. Maybe I'm blinded because of my love for the series,
Yeah.
but I've always said I probably wouldn't play TCGs competitively anymore. I retired from playing Pokemon in 2015. You know, I had just done a bunch of traveling for it. I just wanted to make a shift. And then I had told my wife, probably back in like 2018, I was like, man, if they ever made a One Piece card game, I think that would get me back. I think
Wow.
that would get me traveling. And I started playing it. So we ordered some Japanese starter decks. I started playing it. I've read all the cards in the first set, started building decks around it. Your boy's gonna travel. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna compete.
Oh,
I'm
man.
gonna bring tournament reports. I want to make a YouTube channel for it. Like I really want to do it because I've waited for this for so long. It's what's
Yeah.
gonna get me back into playing TCGs again. And I think that is the value of an IP like that. I think that it's the type of IP that can make people pick something up again. You know, if you're a trading card fan, but maybe you let it go, you're getting older, you've got more life responsibilities, but you're a One Piece fan, it'll pull you back in, you know, and One Piece just has that pull that you can't underestimate how diehard One Piece fans are. If you've read through 1055 chapters, you are diehard.
Yeah.
And so like those people are going to collect this game because they even if they don't care about trading card games, they like collecting the characters. They like collecting the merchandise, having that stuff. And the Japanese product has skyrocketed. Booster boxes pre-sale were like 4,500 to 4,700 yen. Right now they're like 10,000 yen,
Wow.
11,000 yen. Now those are going to come back down because additional reprint waves are coming early August, mid August, etc. But, you know, right now, at least, people are paying that.
Yeah.
And it just shows that, like, people are willing to pay 3, 4x of retail just to get their hands on it early and start to experience it. And I think that's a really good sign for the game of interest because I haven't really seen a lot of people, like, stonking it, right? There's
Mm.
just that interest in wanting to have it, not wanting to, like, flip it or make bank on it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like,
That's good.
Digimon, I kind of felt like blew up right when it came out in English because you couldn't get it, so people were, like, buying more of it to, like, try to flip it into the people that couldn't get it,
Yeah.
and I just haven't really experienced that with One Piece. So that's my dissertation on it. I'm extremely bullish on it as a great game. I don't know about the making money aspect of it or any of that. I'm just for once, I'm actually really just focused on this as like player, collector, hobbyist, wanting to really just enjoy it, wanting to have a good time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the store won't carry the product or anything like that. I did get set up with a distributor for the English, but I'm really in it to just enjoy it for what it is, and it's starting to really look exciting. And so that's why I have it up there. So I
Okay.
don't know if you've looked at it at all or anything
I
like
mean,
that,
I've
but
got nothing to add really other than I need to start binge watching it so I can appreciate
yes,
it in
or just
some way.
reading it, right? I don't know if you like reading, but, like,
Uh,
that it doesn't
reading,
take
yeah.
as long. Like, I know it sounds daunting,
Yeah.
1,055 chapters or whatever, but if you read it, I mean, you'll be able to read a chapter in, like, 3 or 4 minutes unless you're, like, one of those people that sits and looks at every panel for every little detail. Like, if you just read it, I mean, 3 or 4
Yeah.
minutes a chapter. You're talking a couple weeks, maybe a month, you'll blow through the whole thing.
You underestimate my binge watching power. I can knock it out in a few
Oh,
minutes.
yeah, no, binge watching, buddy. I also am a watcher. I like
Yeah.
watching it. I think the hardest part of One Piece is that animation has come so far
Uh,
that watching the first, like, 25, 30 episodes is really rough. After you get through that, though, the story carries it enough, and then once you're through, like, 100 episodes, it's really like, the animation really took a jump. Probably their
mm,
marketing budget and all that, like, went way up. Um and then it obviously it's easy. And now today's anime is obviously like up to today's standards, like Demon Slayer level standards, right? So
okay.
like it looks amazing, it feels
Cool.
amazing, it's fun to watch, it is just amazing, right? And it almost like feels like One Piece is having a resurgence at
Mm,
this point, and maybe it's because it's starting to shift towards that final arc. And I think that could be a thing too that pulls people in, right? Is it's always been seen as like not only is it so long, but it's also never going to end, and he just writes it forever. Whereas like if it gets a definitive stopping point, I think it starts becoming a lot more appealing. It's the same way of like collecting cards. I've always felt. I like collecting stuff like almost once it's like done being made. Like ghost rares in Yu-Gi-Oh for the longest time were fun to collect because you knew exactly how many there were, exactly
yeah.
how many to collect. Now they brought them back, so now they're making more. So now it's far less interesting to me because how many more am I going to have to collect? I don't want to collect them forever. I just want to collect set them out. You know, like I love alternate arts. I don't want alternate arts to go anywhere, but it'll be fun the day that like they're done with it
Hmm.
because then we'll know exactly how many there are. We can plan out our binders and figure out exactly,
Yeah.
and all that. And so I think One Piece will be that same way. Once there's a definitive endpoint, it becomes much more appealing to want to be a part of it. So, but yeah, I'm very bullish on the card game. I have very, very high expectations. I'm cautiously optimistic with Bandai. I'm really hoping they take what they've learned, pros and cons from Super and Digimon, and implement that here. But we'll have to see what happens. This is not a PSA of go out and buy it all. You're going to make stonks, but I do think it'll be a really strong IP for a card game. And in terms of, one of the things real quick that I want to mention that got, I think, Super and Digimon both kind of in trouble is the lack of depth for characters, right?
Mm.
Digimon has a lot of Digimon, but in terms of like upper tier collectible, lovable Digimon, there's like 10. And in terms of Dragon Ball Super,
They're
there's a lot of
making up
characters that
characters.
like upper echelons. It's Goku, Frieza, Vegeta, like Cell, like the same ones that I grew up with, right?
Yeah.
A few new ones, Broly, Beerus, I don't know.
They're just making up new transformations and stuff that don't. Yeah.
Exactly, but it's not a new character, right? It's like if
Right.
you take Charizard, then make it Mega Charizard, and then Charizard VMAX, and
Yeah.
then whatever. But at least Pokemon has 900 Pokemon to work with,
Mhm.
right? And the one thing that One Piece has, and the reason it's went on for so long, is because Oda loves not only writing characters and arcs, but giving every character a backstory. But that has led to people loving just side tier characters that you only ever experience once in 50 chapters, and you never see them again. But now they have all that to work with.
Yeah.
They have so many characters, so many scenes, so many settings, so many items, so much world, so much plot to work with that it really does just it gives the game the potential to not feel repetitive, to not feel like they're recycling stuff. Like that to me was my biggest issue with Digimon is every other set felt like an Omnimon set. Like, how many Omnimons have they printed in that game? To the point that they gave Omnimon literally his whole own set and then just printed more Omnimons in the next set. Like, it didn't like it just felt like they were just regurgitating Omnimon and Greymon and War Greymon, right? And that was it. And whereas I don't obviously One Piece, they're gonna recycle the main crew, they're gonna recycle some of the main villains, but they don't have to necessarily recycle the whole thing, right? They can have a Wano set, they can have a Skypiea set, they can, all these different arcs, and there's so many that by the time they would have to go back and redo a second one or, or an era for a second time, it's gonna have been so long that it'll almost feel like what Team Rocket and EX Team Rocket Returns felt like, where it's like it's
Gotcha.
been so long that it doesn't feel like you're recycling something. It feels like you're doing something new, even though you've done it before. And I think that's what makes card games really healthy and gives card games a lot of longevity is when you can do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is going to give One Piece the most staying power if they do it well.
Cool.
There you have it.
All right.
That's your One Piece dissertation.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Are you going to buy some One Piece now? Are you going to play with me?
You got to send me some at costs, and yes.
Wow. Blackmail. Send it to me across. I'll play with you. Otherwise, I'm not your friend. You can play by yourself. Dang. Good friend.
Well, I think that's gonna bring us into to our today's favorite segment, Blips and Bleps. Cue the music. All right, now. I guess I'll wait.
We're too poor for an audio track. We need more subscribers, more watch hours. Share this to your friends, and we will get sound effects. Probably not.
We will at some point we'll record our own jingle for Blips and Bleps. There's my first blip.
This theme, like whatever the sound is, we could do this. Like
that's what we need.
Our blips. Okay. Anyways, let's get into it. I had too much Mountain Dew, and it's like 10 a.m. in the morning.
All right, my first blip, and this is something we actually were planning on talking about, but didn't talk about at all, so it's perfect. Pokemon Worlds 2022 will be a flop.
Oh, can't comment on that. Dude, I hate this segment. I don't know why we created the rule that we can't comment on stuff that's so stupid.
To engage our viewers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, to engage our viewers. Yeah, so you guys can get just as mad as I am and comment that way. Dude, everyone's gonna comment that one now because that's like so emotionally inducing. Dang.
I gotta win one.
Um, set 12 of Sword and Shield will be a single print run. One and done, baby.
I like this one. The Pokemon Squishmallows will be the cause of a insane, like just plushy hype train era.
If you don't know what a Squishmallow is, go out and look them up.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. All right, my next one. I gotta look it up over there. Okay. Pokemon. This is kind of in theme with what we talked about today with the national. Pokemon will get the national style event within the next 3 to 5 years, or if not, Pokemon like trading card games in general will have their own style event like that.
We'll probably talk about that one anyway at some point. I just thought of this one kind of later in our podcast here, but it's just kind of funny, I think. But Squeaks or I will use the word regurgitating at least once per episode.
I don't know that there's much to break down there, but okay. Radar just wanted a laugh. That's what he wanted.
That's all I wanted.
Hashtag regurgitate in the chat. Yeah, okay. My last one is the Eevee Heroes reprint. So there's an Eevee Heroes reprint coming in September, supposedly. The Eevee Heroes reprint will not have the impact on the market that people think it will. So that's what we've got for you.
Okay.
This was episode 2 of Collectible Conversations. Those were the blips. Those were the bleps. Obviously, we can't talk about them, but we want to. But you guys get to decide which one we get to talk about next week. So again, let us know in the comment section below which one you want to hear more about with your hashtag regurgitate, and we will regurgitate that one on the next episode. But I want to thank you all for making it this far into the podcast and watching. We're your host. I'm Squeaks. That's Radar. And we will see you all next time.
Oh, and we didn't say this in the beginning, but please like, comment, and subscribe.
They already left because we said we'd see you next time, but like, subscribe anyways. Woo!
All right. And hey, Squeaks.
Hey, I'm thinking. This is hot. So like, goes to like almost where my armpit starts. Like, dude, they're huge. Like
Pidgeot V. Is there not a Pidgeot alt art? Are you? Is that a sick joke?
Hi.
Wow, that's a great camera. Look at this. Did you start a skincare routine? Looking good over there.